Hello, gorgeous ones. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the very first episode of Unabashed Season 1 and Season 2 of my podcasting career. That's right. For those of you that are just finding the show, welcome to this pleasure-focused community of empowerment humans all around the world. And for those of you that are coming back to the new branding, the new vibe, the new show and feel, welcome and thank you for coming back and joining this wild, soulful journey with me. I am starting off episode 1, and we're going to get to the juice of it all. You might be wondering, why is there a new name or show as you're finding it? And I want to start off by first addressing what has happened over the last 2 years in this journey. For those of you that may be worried or concerned and sent me all of your notes and emails that you want me to keep the original name, which was the Pussy Priestess Show, I want to reassure you that Pussy Priestess energy, my monarch, my trademark, is going nowhere, my loves. She is right here. You can feel her riding, creating with me all the way. And kind of like what Beyonce did with her Sasha Fierce decade moment, she has just become an integrated part of my whole being as Josephina, just as Beyonce is now known as Beyonce. And I think that is such a great example to show how anyone, mainstream, spiritual, non-spiritual, goes through these evolutionary transformational processes when it comes to our identity. And sometimes it is an identity shift that we make independent of outside external factors, completely from the internal. And in my case, it was completely shifted and catalyzed through the outside experiences of being deplatformed back in 2022. Not only was I deplatformed, I want to highlight as well my reason for coming back to the show and renaming it, which I'll get into in a moment, so please do stay with me. I want to highlight that in the last 2 years, nothing much has actually changed with women being ashamed of and not ready to reclaim their own sexuality and especially their genitals and the word pussy. I was flabbergasted when I read in the news just 2 weeks ago that Zoe Kravitz, who is a known celebrity and an advocate, really well-established professional in the entertainment industry, had her own Netflix series that was called, get ready, Pussy Island. Sound familiar? Her and I are definitely on the same page and the same wave of pussy reclamation and helping women all over the world reclaim the energy, the word, and the power to one of sexiness, sassiness, playfulness, and one that is empowering. However, she also, similar to me, got a lot of lashback, not by men or patriarchy. Sorry to break it to you guys and gals. It actually isn't the patriarchy. Shocker. All the feminists that are saying it, all the female leaders that want to point the finger to the patriarchy. I'm starting off episode 1 of Unabashed being real here to say we got to stop pointing fingers at the patriarchy because it's actually not men. It is the indoctrination of women, not only to patriarchal beliefs, but here we go to our own internal judgment and shaming and disconnection of our own bodies. Yeah, I totally said it. What's up with women still being in the shame frequency, in the rejection of our own sexuality and specifically our genitals? It was women that gave her such a massive lashback in the media that she actually went ahead, sound again familiar, we're on the same trend here, and listen up. She made a decision like I made a decision, and we both made a decision from a very empowered place to not only shift the name, but to give the women what they want because we're women-centric, we're feminine-centric, and women are not fully ready to reclaim the word pussy, and that's okay. Do we want to be right or do we want to love? And do we want to be an invitation for women who really need this work? And so Zoe Kravitz changed the name of her Netflix to Pussy Island. Now is called Blink Twice. And I wanted to start the show off with a mirroring of how not only is what we go through personally something that is for our own soul's journey and evolution, but it's also what's happening in the collective. For those of you that know me very well and have been with me for many, many years, I've been in this work for 14 years. I am an Egyptian Middle Eastern priestess through blood, through DNA. I'm an ancestor of the pharaohs. Yes, that's true. Not many people in the world or the planet can actually say that, but that is truth. That is facts. I am born with an innate wisdom and a connection to the divine, to channel the divine, to have a seer eye. Some call it a Sikh in the more Indian cultures. It is a priestess, that which can see to the future and beyond the physical world into the spiritual realm. Priestesses were wisdom keepers and oracles for the pharaohs, for the kings and female queens at that time, and were very close into the hierarchy of royalty to be able to actually share the wisdom that they were receiving for future protection of the community, of the kingdom, of the queendom. So priestesses were very, very revered. And I don't just throw this languaging around all the time, or you might see a lot of women wearing these ankh necklaces all around the key of life, which is from my heritage and in my lineage as an Egyptian priestess. It is actually an initiation that comes through the activation. And many feel like they're connected to priestesses, which is why you're in my community, or you want to activate your own innate priestess wisdom. And I rest assured that every single woman on the planet has access to her own innate spiritual priestess gifts. Even if she's not from a lineage, she's able to access higher consciousness, see things, know things beyond through her intuition. And I really do help bring those spiritual gifts online. And in my visioning and in my gifts, I saw that the world wasn't ready for Pussy Priestess. And I still went forward with it because I wanted to wave a flag. I wanted to be loud and bold and guns blazing to know, hey, this is something that we all actually really need. I see the evolution. I see what's happening. I see how many women actually need to wake up and are desperately suffering in these soul-sucking relationships of trading sex and resources for money, and are with men in relationships for safety and security because of money. And it is absolutely soul sucking. And so when I came out with the first episode and the first season of the name, and when I coined the term Pussy Priestess, it is a spiritual moniker of bringing the profane, the slutty, the like pornography, male gaze eye into the light, taking it out of the shadow and bringing it into the light, bringing it out with, on a car and a stage and showcasing it with bump and lights and disco balls and letting pussy be all over the place. And I experienced backlash from women, even more so than men. And so just as Zoe Kravitz, and this just came out, you guys, 2 weeks ago, I have been dancing with the name Unabashed. And actually, Unabashed is a play on my last name. But the seed of this, the seed of Unabashed, is to let go of any embarrassment or shame or shyness, to not be shamed, to not be in your shyness. And so my whole mission is about liberating love, liberating bodies, liberating souls, liberating women. And when I first came out of the spiritual closet, gosh, at that point was almost 18 years ago, I created something called Unabashed before there was podcasts. And I did my first raw Unabashed. And so that was the seed of me expressing myself very boldly, very publicly. And then it transformed into a very women-centric, pussy-centric branding and identity. And I love it. It's going nowhere. I know it's provocative. I know it's confronting. I know that based on messages that I've gotten from some of the women, that even hearing me be so powerful and so passionate in my teachings, in my transmissions, that it can maybe feel triggering and it can maybe feel confronting to feel that readiness and power and empowerment in a woman. And so the invitation I invite you to is, if I trigger you in any way, the words I say, the energy that I'm giving, the passion, the aliveness, I just want you to know that, number one, take space if you need it, but you'll be back, as they all do. And that's the messages that I get. But number two, lean into it as an invitation for you to unlock more of your innate power and wisdom energy within yourself, my loves. I am simply a mirror reflecting back to you any part that are shadows or woundings that haven't been healed or brought forward. And I welcome all of those parts to the table. The intention of this time around with Unabashed is to come to the table, have a matcha with me, have a coffee with me, get into a conversation with me. Pop me into your headphones when you're on your hot girl walk, when you're in the shower, when you are about to go on a date, when you need to amp yourself up before meetings or coaching calls. Like, I am here with you on this journey to you being your most liberated self so that we can all experience the most wildest, orgasmic success of our lives in the bedroom and beyond the bedroom, in business, in money, in friendships, in love, and pleasure, and being able to make love to life for the sake of making love and being in love. Yeah, it's a big invitation. And yeah, I am absolutely here for it. And I took that deep knowingness inside of myself. And before I decided to come back here in this unabashed new container, new energy, you can hear a difference in my voice. You can feel the frequency that I'm giving to you from my nervous system to yours. So some real life shit that I've gone through and that I've experienced with the lashback, with women not being ready for it and women feeling disgusted, rejected, embarrassed by their own genitals. And when I had created the show, originally it was to invite women in and to do it in a way where I didn't care if women were upset by it. I didn't care that women didn't like it. I didn't care that I was being provocative and pushing the edge, because it was really about me finding my voice and me being in the fullest truth of my embodiment, guns a-blazing. And it was a hard journey. It absolutely was challenging and hard and uphill. And I felt lonely and I felt like I had arrows thrown into my back when I was deplatformed on Instagram and on TikTok and on Facebook. And my business definitely took a drop and took a toll. And I was so devastated because it was identity death for me. Who was I without my audience? Who was I without my platforms of contribution? Who am I if I wasn't being the pussy priestess for all of those? And who was I now that I felt like I had been stomped on? And it took me time to really grieve and go through my grieving process, which is rage and then sadness and then letting go and then rage and then sadness and then letting go. And it took me about a year and a half, being really honest, to move through the grieving process, where it was really beautiful and quite an exquisite moment of self leadership for me to be able to lead myself through the depths of my own disempowering stories, to notice where I was believing or living in a patriarchal mindset deep within my psyche. If any part was believing that it was a man's world, if any part was believing that I was being victimized, if any part of me was believing that I don't belong, that this isn't worth it, that I'm not worth it, that my work isn't important. And I share this with you in full vulnerability because I know I'm not alone in that, in those thoughts, in those stories, in those disbeliefs, when it comes to our business or our audience or our offers or our relationship or our sexuality and dating. We all tend to have these little insidious, unconscious, conscious narratives and dialogues that we're having with ourselves. And I wouldn't be real and raw and an amazing teacher if I was not to share the truth of my stories. And so I share these stories with you as ways of connecting and intimacy and ways of showing that I'm also human like you. I go through challenges and I go through struggles and I teach it. And my teachings come from a nervous system level, from a deep somatic level of knowing the depths of my darkness, working with the shadows, dancing with them, and then alchemizing them through pleasure. That is one of my pillars, is using pleasure as alchemy to transform our pain, our rage, our sadness, and to touch the depth of grief, because in that depth of the grief is where we can find bliss. And it's a journey to get there. And as I was in that journey, it gave me an opportunity to let everything go. So you haven't seen me in the show, you haven't seen me on social media for quite some time, until the beginning of this year of 2024. And it was when I was in the inquiry of this glorious alchemic process of questioning my beliefs, questioning my identity, shedding things that I didn't value anymore, and doing really deep interpersonal and interrelational work where I allowed myself to be held in the most messy, raw, dark, crying, snotty, vulnerable parts of myself on the floor when I didn't know if I would make it out the other side. And if I did, my greatest fear in facing this deplatformation wasn't being deplatformed. I actually found out my greatest fear below that was that I could never come back to be seen again, to come back again, to feel so energized and enlivened and enthralled and exalted and excited to be here to teach again. And I faced that fear, but I let it show itself to me organically and naturally. And it was through the being held from my deep, loving partner, Naeem, that I got to really feel like what it was to be melted in the full spectrum of my maiden, in my little girl, not my victim, but in the innocence and the purity of not knowing and making it be okay and allowing the most tender parts of myself to be held, to feel protected, to feel guarded, to feel guided. And I got to pour into my relationship. I got to pour into moving into Puerto Rico and building a home there and a life there and cooking and baking and doing art and dancing and deepening in my practices and working with other teachers. And I took a step back from the public eye view. And it was really extremely necessary to not rush my process because I didn't know what that process would look like. And I share all this because I wasn't sure if I was going to come back. And for those of you that are creative artists who go through hard times, relationship breakups, who go through business failures or bankruptcies or really hard times and an identity collapses with you, wow, did I realize how much my self-worth was intertwined with my business. And you can't be successful to the highest limitless degree if we are tying in our intrinsic worthiness and our inherent goodness into our business. There needs to be an unraveling to know that it's not mutually exclusive and they're not actually tied together. They're totally separate things. And when I did that unraveling, I really tuned into what do I want to be doing in my service and contribution. And I say this again from being in the most humblest journey of seeing, wow, the world's not ready for it. Wow. Am I going to succumb to a society that doesn't really support on these platforms and deems what I'm doing adult in nature, that led me to being banned and deleted on social media and even dropped by my previous production company for it, which is kind of a sexy problem to have if you can actually believe it. And yet through this, I must say, it was the deepest level of exquisite leadership journey that I have ever been on in my life, because there was a deeper identity that I didn't see attached to it, even a mask that was attached to how I was showing up. And knowing that that death and that identity was letting go of the identity, but also letting go and destroying of the box that I had unbeknownstly put on myself and around myself. And what a pleasure, what a absolute pleasure did this happen for me, my loves, for me. Because I got to grief all the content being gone. I got to grief no longer having an identity and seeing my journey and my transformation and a reflection of who I've been and where I'm going and all of those pieces. And instead, I got to really reflect on, how have I created an impact? How have I created success? How have I gone through these transformations over and over and over again and found myself more beautiful, more radiant, more resilient on the other side, that I continue to rise like a phoenix year after year. And no coincidence that this is the year of the dragon. And I am flying to a whole new level of heights. And I'm bringing you all with me to come and bring the show, to take it further, wider, bigger than we've ever done before. And to build on the success, because the previous season was a success. The show made it in iTunes top 150. I had over 20,000 downloads. By all means, it's a success. And I want to build on the success from a deeper place now of contribution and give back in the way that women are more ready, available to receive, and are open to the accessibility of it. And that's what's important to me. And before I decided to do that, I sat back and I looked at all the teachers in the space. And I looked at who's doing this work, who is teaching sexual empowerment and Tantra, as well as highlighting feminine empowerment and embodiment, who is really bridging these worlds and creating the intersection of spirituality and sexuality and business and wealth creation at the frequency and the level of which I play my life and game. And when I sat back and I watched the different podcasts and I listened and I checked them all out, and once again, I say this from the most humbled place, the most humbled place of being deeply, deeply humbled. I didn't see anyone doing it the way that I was doing it or the way that I am doing it. There's a lot of great teachers out there, but there are not a lot of teachers that are embodying the raw energy, the nervous system to nervous system, old school, ancient technology ways of teaching, unscripted. This is unscripted, ready to rock from my nervous system to yours. There may be some bullet points that I follow, but this is unscripted. This is lived experience. And for those that are doing it in such a profound way that it rocks me, that it speaks to me, nothing on the market is out there. And then I started feeling that little hey girl, hey girl, hey girl voice everywhere I went. You gotta come back. You gotta do the show. The world needs it. These women need it. These couples need it beyond just the women. Open it up to the men, open it up to the couples, open it up to humans that resonate with this work, that resonate with this teaching, that resonate with the priestess and the energy and the transmission of this ancient knowledge and technology that I bring through. And when I kept going to the grocery store and when I went to yoga and when I went to the gym and when I would sleep at night, I just kept getting a knock and a knock and a knock and the continual voice asking me, asking me, asking me. And I knew I couldn't do it in the same way on platforms in the parameters that don't honor the word. But I didn't know how I would come back or how I could do it in a way where it could really align now with my higher value of not just guns a-blazing, F the patriarchy, let's fucking go, doing it, because I had changed, I had grown, I had evolved. I really shifted love, making love as my GPS and pleasure, but really the deep work to integrate the stories that I told myself brought me into the deepest level of self-love that I have ever experienced in my over 20 years of doing self-love work. And when I aligned with that, sharing it with my man, sharing it with my community, I also wanted to really recalibrate, not about having an awesome show and having an audience and being number one and all the significance. I wanted it to truly be about making an impact and contributing as a platform of education that's accessible for people everywhere and with a name that's accessible but yet embodies everything that I stand for. And to let go of old meanings and old energies and even the seed of where that originated. And so it is my highest surprise and delight that I stand here and I share this with you more lit up, more in integrity, more in authenticity, more aligned with my soul, with my dharma than I've ever been before. Raw, here, clear, vulnerable in my creatrix goddess energy, here to give and to serve, giving this show, giving this space, this time, a new runway to take off at an even higher frequency that's essential for all of us, given where we still are in the world right now. And when I decided to come back and I took a poll and I did polls on Instagram and everything else, which I highly recommend, to not just make it about yourself, to ask people what they want. And hence, like, I want to use the same example of Zoe Kravitz. She gave them what they wanted. They weren't ready for something amazing called Pussy Island, even though it brought her her man of Channing Tatum. And even though it brought her the power and the seed of what she created, she integrated it, she evolved it, but she still kept the part of that art with her. And I love that because before I even knew about that, life mirrors art. And in the art of my messiness and seeing and foreseeing what's needed, not succumbing to the ideas, not letting the society shape me or win, or because I had to do it, because someone told me I needed to do it, or the polls told me I did it, or teachers told me I needed to do it, or coaches or mentors or my family or my friends. I am an absolute sovereign being. I do not, the queen in me does not abide by expectations of my lover, of my family, of my father, of my friends, of my coach, of society. I operate in full sovereignty. And it needed to come from a place where it landed deep in my blood and my bones to be a full body yes, which is a part of my pillars and fundamental foundations of teachings. It's got to land in the nervous system for you to fully stand behind it and to believe it. If you want others to believe it, you've got to believe it. You got to bring that emotion, that passion, that truth behind it. You got to be a stand. You got to have a strong spine. You got to have your womb full. You got to have your body relaxed. You got to have your sex dripping in honey and alive for it to be a yes, for it to truly land for others. You got to believe it. You've got to be empowered by it. And make that decision not from a choice of fear, but from a place of power. And so I took all the information in and I sat with it. And I did something that I want to share with you all, that if you're ever in a conundrum or you're wondering what road to take, and I know that one of my colleagues had to change her Instagram name recently. And she's now going by her name. And I won't share it because she didn't give me permission to share her story, but she's going by her name. And she had a really cool, catchy title name. And she had, 40,000 followers, but she was being censored. And especially if you're in any kind of provocative space, sexual wellness space, priestess space, alternative space, that they're not really loving on the online platform space, you may be facing a choice to change, uplevel, transform, integrate, and evolve, my loves. And that evolution may be a painful one. And so as I coached her and counseled her on the transition of her name, because I've gone through it myself, she came from fear and from sadness. And what I said to her was, I've been tussling with this myself for 1.5 years. And what's really more important? Is the name important? Or is the work and the service and the impact more important than the name? Because the people will go with you anyways. The people will evolve with you and they'll love the fact that you're evolving. But it is about letting the attachment go that we have to a name. And I told her the thing that one of my coaches, Tony Robbins, said to me, which is, if a word fucks you up, you're already fucked. And let that settle in. Because as society, we're already fucked, guys. Sorry to break it to you. We're fucked. And we're fucked hard and we're fucked raw. And there isn't much heart connection behind the way that society really looks at people who are cutting edge leaders, trendsetters out of the box. And look at Elon Musk. People hate him, but also people love him because he's genius. And realizing, based on Zoe Kravitz, based on my deplatformation, based on her doing really powerful educational work, getting flagged, censored, where her work is very, very limited from her 40,000 plus followers, where only maybe a few hundred people see her work, we come to a choice point, which is, what do we value more? Letting ourselves fight a system that's already fucked, or evolving and finding a way to play the game for even more success and riding that edge even deeper, longer, wider, in ways that get us to show up in the world even more on fire, more radiant, more authentic, and the confident versions of ourselves. I mean, that's kind of really sexy problem to have. Again, if we focus and we look at it that way, not everybody does. I sure as heck didn't before this, but now I do. And she knew that it was time for her to let go of the identity and to embrace more of herself without a mask, without a catchy title and name. Who are we without it? And the truth is, who are we to hide behind it? How dare we hide? How dare we hide our greatness? How dare we let systems shut us down? Or how dare we think that we can't find another way? And creating the show shows my commitment to moving forward, to expanding my message, to finding another way. And not just finding another way because it's an F you and I'm going to, F the system and do. No, 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 my loves. This is my commitment to expanding and finding another way and a clear road that feels even more aligned with me on the journey that I want to have in my entire career. Do I want to look back on the next 5, 10, 25 years and say, wow, that was really hard. I was fighting and struggling and going against a system that's in full resistance to what I'm doing and have that be my life story? What a drain, which I experienced for many years, many, many years, 9 years. Or did I want to have my story be one where, wow, 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 did I find a different way, a greater transformist way to live unapologetically as me and ride the system to my benefit? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. Do I want to be known for a journey of actually being able to use that emotional pain and struggle that actually shed my identity and became somebody completely new, captivating, and luminous at a higher level because I actually chose to let go of the struggle and let go of the resistance and actually listen and start to play with the game like got a ace up my sleeve, be a wild card in this game? That excites me to know that I can do it in a way that's more fun and more easeful and more effortless and more playful and one in a way that is easily accessible and more well received for those that are wanting and listening to it. Yes. Oh my God, it's resounding. Yes. Absolutely. I want to be known for choosing my power and finding a new path that felt even more powerful than before. And a journey of resilience that didn't just change my inner world, but it transformed my outer world, my branding, my outer appearance, my demeanor, my tonality, my beingness. And when I got to that place, I put both names on the same playing field, not from failure, both success, both equal. And from that place of power, I chose to say, what do I really align with more in my values? What do I align more with? Living from the deepest principles of self love and authenticity. Knowing that the journey is unfolding for me perfectly and effortlessly in order for me to live into and as the embodiment of my highest self now, today, to make a choice for my higher self, not my wound. What a pleasure I have this opportunity. Yes, it might have been one that I wouldn't have wanted or I wouldn't have chosen, but that's why I'm being given it from the divine. It's kind of real sexy. Kind of really, really, really sexy. And then on both playing fields, saying the names, feeling the seed, my embodiment, my expression, my values, it just lands. A deep knowingness. And yes, grief, but more excitement and bliss to know that more goodness is coming. And by having that mindset shift and that energetic emotional shift transforms everything, my loves, everything. Because we know it's our dharma. We know more than ever in our blood and in our bones that it's that moment, that choice point moment of self-empowerment and exquisite leadership, that whatever we create here is a representation, not just of a name, but a reflection of the profound transformation we have undergone of non-attachment. It's in the goddess's hands. Goddess has got this. God has got this. The divine has got this. And this is not just for me, it's for us. This is for us. Oh, how good does that feel to know this is for us? Not just operating from a fierce place of my truth and my me. Forget external judgments, all the things. I want to do it my way. I want to do it my way. The maiden, the maiden, the maiden. I want to be unapologetic. I want to do it in my way that's iconic and rebellious and be the sacred rebel. And there's a time and a space for that. And I did it. And if you've done it, you've done it iconically. And now life has brought a deeper, powerful level of an initiation into authenticity if you're gonna be a teacher of liberation and freedom. If you're gonna be a teacher of relationships and non-attachments. If you're gonna be a teacher and represent the divine and you're going to embody the priestess codes, the leader codes, you gotta be willing to surrender it all, to rebirth and come alive. Once again. Not just call ourselves that, not just get a tattoo or wear a necklace or, say I'm a priestess and put it on your Instagram and roam around and all these very American commercialized way of representing spirituality and bastardizing it and taking other people's names and copy and pasting it in this whole world of everyone just trying to be seen and trying to be seen and trying to get numbers and followers and all those pieces. My loves, it doesn't actually matter. And I'm telling you that from having 10,000 followers and 20,000 downloads on a show, and to some that made me nothing. But for some, that's a lot, and that's wildly successful and more than enough. And I share that because you've got to be so good with who you are at your core. If you're not embodying the teachings, the philosophies, the wisdoms, the ancient wisdoms, and bringing them into your everyday in the modern way, what are you actually doing? What are you actually doing? Talking about it, but you got to be about it. You got to breathe it. You got to live it. You got to move it through your hips. You got to emanate it through your eyes. You got to project it through your aura. And that's the evolved values here, my loves. Beautifully evolved, beautifully, beautifully, beautifully evolved. And as I said, we're doing this together because it's for us, for us to all rise in radiance, not be so fucked up and tripped up on words, but to know that we become more beautiful, more radiant, more powerful, more authentic, more loving, more loved, more captivating, more magnetic through the struggles, through the confusion. It's through the pressure that shines and polishes our diamond. And knowing that we are that diamond, regardless of the external validations and significance and numbers. But in our heart, in our womb, when we can self-validate, self-recognize, even from our own relationships, and not need it. We don't have to need our man or our partner to see us, to say, you're a queen, you're beautiful. It's great to have it. But if you know it yourself, you can't help but to see it and reflect it. And same thing for the world, regardless of what you're doing. And so I share that all with you because if you're ever at a choice point, put them on the same playing field. this or this? Am I choosing it for my wounded self, my attached self, or my higher self? And whenever we choose from the higher self, it's always sexier and fun and enlivening and expansive and lands as deep, deep truth. And that is the evolutionary opportunity that I am bringing to you here in episode one. I've got lots more stories in store for you all. I didn't even mean to make that rhyme. I've got some of my clients, some transformation stories, some beautiful creatives and visionaries. I'm going to have some maybe surprise celebrity interviews. The show is transformed into a whole new platform for all humans of all kinds and all backgrounds. And I invite you, if any episode lands, share it, spread it, give me feedback on it. I love hearing from you. And as we go into this journey of being unabashed, having no shame, no embarrassment about any conversations, anything we talk about, any of our experiences, emotions, feelings that we go through, the invitation is to adopt the unabashed way, which is to really have a strong backbone and to give yourself the permission to have the full expression and the embodiment of the sexiness that is you. The problems that you have are sexy. They are an invitation for more of you, more of your power, more of your light. And give yourself the permission to be sexy, to be looked at, to be celebrated, to be seen as who you are in your messiness, in your glory, in your greatness, in your erotic feminine power, in your erotic cock like God power, in all aspects of you. Do not be shy. Do not back down. This show is going to unlock more and more of those permission codes. Stay tuned for episode 2 as I'm going to go deeper into the permissionary codes, my love. And thank you, thank you, thank you for being on this journey. Make it be known that I am back in full swing. Always feel free to reach out, and I am sending you all lots of love, gorgeouses. Until next time.